Hello, it is Foundation Friday, August 11th, 2023. Steve Sipress here with another in our multi-part series on the fantastic foundational book, The Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. David J. Schwartz. We're in the final chapter, How to Think Like a Leader. And last time we discussed Dr. Schwartz's leadership rule number 1. And here let's get into leadership rule number 2, which is to think, what is the human way to handle this? So Dr. Schwartz shares that people use different approaches to leadership situations. One approach is to assume the position of a dictator, where you make all the decisions without consulting anybody that's affected by your decisions. I can tell you, I've been in leadership positions pretty much my entire life. Class president way back in elementary school, and captains of the teams, and editor of the daily paper, and general manager of my college radio station, and always been captains of sports teams, and student politics, and then of course became a business leader, and so I've always been in leadership. But way back, man, did I make this mistake. I acted like I knew what I was doing and nobody else did, and I made all these decisions, and man, I had won the election to become the leader of the organization, which at the time was the largest club, the largest group in the entire campus of the college I attended. And yet I almost instantly became extremely unpopular, so that probably a week into my role as the leader of these hundreds of people, there's no way I would have won an election there. So I really screwed the pooch on that one. This dictator refuses to hear subordinate side of a question, because down deep perhaps he's afraid the subordinate might be right. I don't know why, but I screwed that one up. I don't know if that's why or other reasons, but I made that mistake. And then here's another one. Dr. Schwartz shares dictators don't last long, like I just said. And eventually the organization will cease to function smoothly, and some of the best employees will leave, and the remaining ones will get together and plot against the tyrant and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I've been there. But luckily, I learned that while I was in school, so I didn't make the same mistake in any of the businesses that I've ever run. You hear me talk about a lot. I'm a big fan of make every mistake. A mentor told me that a long time ago. Make every mistake. That's how you learn, Steve. Make every single mistake. The key is make each one only once. Great mentorship there. Leadership rule number 2 is to think, what is the human way to handle this? And here's the second mistaken approach to a leadership situation, is the cold mechanical, I'm a rule book operator approach, handling everything exactly according to the book and so on. And I made that mistake as well. To take it one step further, I would treat everyone the same. Well, everyone should be treated the same. That's the rules. And again, a wise mentor came to me and helped me out, and he said, actually, everybody is different, and so you actually, to be fair to everybody, you actually apply different rules to everybody. I never thought about it that way. I said fair means same rules for everybody. As no, fair means different rules for everybody. So the single mom who has a young kid and once in a while is late coming into work because of this or that or whatever, or the baby this or the something that, like, you treat her differently than if it was a single guy showing up late to work with no valid explanation why, or no real reason to do that. So you treat those two people differently. Makes sense? And I could get on and on and on with this, but today there's a lot of flexible work situations and work hours, and again, those people also would be treated differently in terms of flexibility of work, working from home, working only a few days, coming to the office such time, such whatever. And I later on actually taught this to my superiors when I was just starting out in the one and only corporation that I ever worked for or would work for. Is I had to pretty much train my manager how to manage a superstar. He was using this by the book, treat everyone the same, basically managing, which works for managing a bunch of kids. You see it in sports, the difference between managing in college sports versus the pros. The coaches will tell you often you see very successful college coaches, basketball, football, whatever, and then they get a job in the major leagues, in the NFL or the NBA, whatever, and they fail miserably. And I've heard a whole bunch of them say, you know what, it's a big difference. Coaching kids where you are, pretty much, they tend to be a dictator, a by the book, this is the way it's done, dictating everything, and these are the rules, and, follow them or you're off the team and you lose your scholarship and all that kind of dictatorial stuff. But they're like, man, when you're when you're the lowest paid guy in the locker room and you're managing a team of multimillionaires who have been on the team in the league 5, 10, 15 years, they're superstars, they're Hall of Famers, they know what they're doing, they're professionals. You don't just sit there and go, these are the rules, by the book, take it or leave it, hit the highway. Like, absolutely not. So that's mistake number 2. And that's the extent of the mistakes that Dr. Schwartz covers. And then he shares, and I skipped too many pages here, so I'll go back. He says, persons who rise to tremendous leadership heights use a third approach that we will call being human. Go figure. Being human. And he gives a whole bunch of examples. Actually, being human, and this is the way I've always managed, is to, I always say my clients know, I treat them, and you hear me say it a lot here, that I treat them as part of the family. Client becomes a member of the Sipress family. They come over my home anytime, they can call anytime, they can, I go above and beyond doing things for them, their personal life, celebrate people's birthdays, congratulate them on things that have nothing to do with their business, get to know their family, their wives, their spouses, their husbands, their significant others, their kids, whatever it is. Like, first of all, why not? How cool is that? Like, people say, oh, you don't mix business with pleasure. Like, well, whoever said that doesn't know what they're talking about. Of course you do. First of all, by definition, when you're doing it right, business is pleasure. I mean, working with my clients, you don't think that's pleasurable? You don't think I love that? You don't think I love seeing their success and seeing them grow and their families and, the spouses that come up and thank me for the life-changing situations and this and that, and, again, just being human, getting to know everybody. And Dr. Schwartz gives a whole bunch of examples in the book about treating people as humans. But I think you get the point. We don't have to go into in detail, and hopefully you're doing that. If you want to go into more detail, you can get on my calendar, as always, by going to www.thewowstrategy.com. That's the strategy that I created years ago that is a simple but powerful system to fix any problem anyone's having with their advertising and marketing and getting going again almost instantly, and so they can have boatloads of cash coming into their business. That's www.thewowstrategy.com. But we don't have to talk about advertising and marketing if you don't want. We can talk about leadership, or we can talk about the weather, or whatever you want to do. Short call, but you can use it any way you want. And so that'll do it for today. And next week we're going to get into what did I put here? The way to the matter of criticizing people. That's right. We're going to get into what Dr. Schwartz calls the master formula for how to criticize people. And, of course, we'll give some examples of how not to criticize people, which is likely, again, a lot of the mistakes I made early on in my leadership days, way before I started my first business, so that I never had to make them in business. And if you are, it's never too late to turn things around. Go out and get yourself a copy of this fantastic foundational book, The Magic of Thinking Big, by Dr. David J. Schwartz, or just scroll back wherever you're reading this or watching it or listening to it, and you can go through. I've gone through almost the entire book now over the past year or more, every Foundational Friday, including we'll be back next Foundational Friday with another episode where we will share Dr. Schwartz's magic formula for how to criticize people properly. And I'll be back with you here again tomorrow on Social Media Saturday. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy your weekend. Catch you tomorrow. Over and out. Bye-bye.